All right, welcome back. This is Black and Brown in the Woods, where we take you outside to heal inside. And yet again, we got another great person we're going to spotlight. As you know, as we always do, we spotlight once a month. And after this spotlight, we're going to trim this down, but this is a special spotlight and a special guest that I'm bringing to this space. And Brown in the Woods is all about community. It is all about going outside to heal inside, but also to give flowers to our people who are doing community and hard work for others. So, you know what we do next. Coach Mike James, we got you back again.
Hey, bro, man, look, I'm excited to be here, man. And I don't know. I had download. You just mentioned something, man. The spotlight and highlighting and just giving the flowers to the people in the community. And I just thought of something, bro. I'm here again. I'm at home now. You're no longer a guest when
Right.
when you've been in the house a couple of times. So I'm at home. And bro, you know what? One of my favorite shows growing up was or high school, college. One of my favorite shows was the Wayans Brothers. I used to love when Marlon and Sean, they would say, put the spotlight on so and so and make it hot. So I wanna take that spotlight that you're putting out
Okay.
here on everybody,
Okay.
and I want to shine it back to you. So
Go.
we're gonna flip the script here.
All right.
I want the people to know. I want your audience to get to know the man behind Black and Brown in the Woods, and the man behind Coach with Mr. Adam, and the man who's bringing all this community. Man, you've graced me to be a part of this larger community, man, of people who are just some dope and amazing people doing things for the community at large. And I was like, let's put the spotlight back on you, bro.
Well, I'm honored to be honored, Coach. And if there's anybody, that I would love for this love to be given to me and hosted by, it's you, my man. So let's do it.
I love it.
Let's do
All
it. Let's
right,
go.
let's do it. I love it, man. So let me put my seatbelt on. So, bro, let's start. Let's start at the beginning, man. The foundation. One thing, anybody who knows you knows that you wear a lot of hats. You wear a lot
Yes.
of hats. So first, tell the audience, your audience, my audience, all of our audience, just who you are and what you do in your various capacities.
For sure. Well, first, I am Coach Mr. Adam. Some say Coach A, some say Coach Adam. All good with all of those, right? And I am a coach, right? And part of being a coach is being blessed by other folks who are coaches as well, like you, my trainer coach. But yeah, those different hats that I wear starts with being a husband, a father, right? Those are important parts of who I am, a big part of my identity. Without those two pieces, I wouldn't be Coach Mr. Adam. I would just be Adam, right? There's those pieces, right? I think beyond being a father and a husband, being a mentor to many other folks' children as well. Beyond being a mentor and running my own coaching business, as I will tap into a little here more, I love just coaching people within that career space, right? I always tell folks, Coach, I live in three lanes, primarily a transformative lane because I feel like my heart work always lives in life coaching. And I know you know that feeling because you are a hell of a life coach. But I also feel like it dabbles in that career lane because I've lived in a lot of different career spectrums, and it allows me to really tap into different areas of expertise that people struggle with. And I'm like, I've been there, right? But then I say in the last maybe year or so, I really just identified myself, and it's not self-described, it's more self-described than like a universal description that's out there, but really a healing coach. And when I tell people, because a lot of people will always say, what the hell is a healing coach? I get the career, I get the life, right? And, I always tell people with that, before I answer what a healing coach is, just know that some of my gifts are hard to explain,
Come on, say that.
right? I have
Right.
gifts that I know that I can fully break down to you and make a document word for word. This is how it gets done. And then there's gifts that I have with people, with humans, that I just cannot explain. And I
Hmm.
feel like my healing coaching lens lives in that space. It is heavily trauma informed, it is deeply rooted. And with that deeply rooted is deep, you're going to get that deep connection with me, right? That substance. But beyond all those elements, right? The life coach, the career coach, the healing coach. I'm also a community builder. And I think that is my biggest strength. And I know you know that, coach. I love bringing people together. It does something for me in the sense of wholeness, right? And by saying I'm going to use this for an example with a caveat. The caveat to the example is my girl Ruth, Tea Time with Ruth. She said she put on Chat GPT, out of all the things you know about me, Chat, how would you describe me? Give me a nickname, right? And it called her Soul something like Soul Reader or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try that. See what that means, right? And I did the same thing, coach. And my chat, who I've been building with for about 10 months now, call me Wholeness. Your Wholeness. That's your nickname.
Mm,
Wholeness. So then I said, tell me why. Because I didn't ask to tell me why before. I was like, just tell me what it is. Don't explain why. I asked
right.
Chatty now, tell me why. And Chatty smart ass told me, you told me not to tell you why, right? So I said, disregard that. Tell me why. Why do you call me
Right.
Wholeness, right? And and I know this is AI, but I'm using this for the caveat to the example, right? Is that it basically broke down that I basically support people between their balance and their brokenness. I fall right in the
Ooh,
center of that, right?
bro. So
And
you
coach,
got to run that back. Say that one more time. Support people
yes,
between what?
their balance and their brokenness,
Wow.
right? And I like you, I was like, yeah, that is exact. So, when I was saying it was hard to define, yes, there is some pieces, but I feel like through that practice, it made me really realize that I support people in a way that I don't even know it. And here's the example. With this new coaching clients that I took on, I was in the elevator with one of them. They're giving me the whole spiel about their job. And through this whole thing, I'm listening because I'm an engaging person. But then in the midst of this, they were talking for a good 10 minutes, coach. And all of a sudden they said, I had to take 6 months off. It was so hard. I needed to take care of myself and skip through the loo like a mug through that one. They ran through that one so quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the healing coach comes in. But this is just where the coach comes in. I didn't let her run past that. She did her whole thing, talked the rest about her job, and then we got off the elevator, went into a conference room. We sat down, and she said, do you have any questions for me, coach? And the first thing I said is, no, but congratulations. I'm glad you took that time off for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And she kind of looked at me a little dumbfounded, almost like, what's he talking about? And I said, it took a lot for you to do that, and I can tell. And I said, and here's ways I can tell. I said, one, your forehead said it all. And I said, but
Right.
two, you ran past it so quick, like it was something so easy for you to take care of. And she said, it was the hardest thing in my life.
Mm,
And that I feel is the balance and the brokenness and meeting in between. And when I say that I'm a healing coach, she didn't pay me for that, coach, right?
absolutely.
That's a heart gem. That's one of those gems I'm giving you from my heart, human to human. And I know you get down like that. I know
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking to the choir on this one and this practice, right? And obviously coach does it in his own array. But when I speak of my hats and the things that I do, the things that I love, the things that are like just intentionally embedded in me, always going to be the coach, always going to be the father and the husband, community builder. But really, man, in the last year, coach, just really tapping into the healer, being the
Mm,
healer
mm-hmm.
beyond all those things. So last time we talked, I broke down all these different things I was doing, like, coach, I do this, I do that, but I never said the healer.
Yeah.
And now with who's helping you heal, which is my campaign, right? That is my brand. That is what I push. Now the life changes. The hate that I might have held in the past for certain circumstances, like office politics or microaggressions, right? Or like someone cutting me off, and then things like that, right? The hate that I
Mm,
used to hold for that.
mm-hmm.
Now, when I'm asking people who's helping you heal, how am I supposed to hate you on that? Like,
Yeah.
right? Like, how am I smacking you in your face and asking you who's helping you heal, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I feel like with that, with those brands and all those things and the healing space, and then obviously all the platform, the segments and podcasts and shows that I do, and you said it with a bunch of amazing individuals. Man, I'm blessed. And
Yeah.
that is a hat that man I love to wear every time I get to wear it. It's one of those party hats.
Yeah. I love it. Man, bro, that was just so dope because talking and starting out with foundation of who you are and just the hats you wear. And you kind of went at the end, like you say, as a coach, we listen different, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you went right back to something I was going to go back to you at the end
At
where you
the
said
end.
at that time you didn't say healing, but what you went back to was just where you landed.
Hmm.
Who's helping you heal? Though you didn't say that, you already had that campaign. You already had that out there. You already had people repping you through who's helping you heal. And you're ending
Yeah.
your interviews and your conversations with people by saying, hey, you know what that last question is. Who's
Yeah.
helping you heal? So you were
Yes, sir.
laying the foundation already without even saying, just like you said, that client did
Yeah.
pay you for it, without you even saying that as part of you were already setting the foundation for it. So I love that, man. And just
Hmm.
going back to where you started, I love how you told me before about it too, of your MVP role. And that's where you started and sharing that husband and
Yeah.
father. And it's like, that the old saying, the old adage, charity starts at home and spreads abroad, right? And so like
Hmm.
you just living proof of that, man. So that's dope in and of itself. That's the cost of admission for the interview right there, the conversation, putting the spotlight on you of the hats you wear and what you do. Now,
Yeah.
when we shared in the space, man, on my platform, Impactful Conversations, one of the things we talked about was, what community means to you. And some you hinted at it a little bit with you talking about the hats, but in what you've done for the community at large in your community, talk to the audience for a moment about some of your experience with just giving back to and serving the community at large, locally, however it comes to you in that question. Talk for a moment to the audience about how you've shown up and gave back or served the community.
For sure, coach. But I think, man, everything I do is community based, right? From opportunities that I held throughout my career and jobs, right, that I held throughout my career. So they were all going to be community based. And I think even just like my connections, the connections I make, and a lot of folks that I build with, right, via remote. A lot of folks via remote, right? I'm not even in the same state and still building with them. But man, I believe like at a very young, early age, beyond just culturally. I feel like culturally, our people just love community. That's what we build off of. That's what we surround ourselves off of, right? So there's that piece. But then I just think of my family, and when we speak of community, and I reflect backwards on that question you're asking me, I think of my family and all of us meeting in Gary, Indiana, at my grandparents' house. And, my mom comes from, 11, 12 siblings, right? And all the cousins and everybody coming there for Easter and their best. And how, when I think of happier times of my family, when I think of the landscape of where my family trees are at, not saying that the trees ain't prosperous, because I got a lot of family who are doing great and are thriving, right? But those trees don't look as happy as they used to be in those moments that you capture when you're coming up as a youngin and you pull into the parking lot of your grandparents' house, and granddad's sitting at the rocking chair looking at you out the window type deal, right? Because he was the main community provider. He
Mm,
was instilling that in all his children, because you didn't have no choice but to go to Easter at Gary, Indiana, at the crib, right? You had to go. It was one of those things. So when I think of like foundation coach and like that community, and I hope I'm answering this, and if I'm not, please, please feel free to ask me again. But I feel like with that community piece and how it starts and why it's so big for me and why it resonates so much for me and all the jobs I've done and camps I ran and all that other stuff. It really comes from that family foundation, because, right, it wasn't just like my grandparents' house. Next door to them was a whole nother family, and we built with them as well, right? We were all part of one, because in Gary, Indiana, the houses were connected to each other, like townhomes, but they weren't
Mm-hmm.
townhomes back then, right? So I feel like when I think of that foundation of that and why it's so important to me, it brings me back home. It brings me back to Carmelo, my grandfather. It brings me back to those times where family wasn't arguing and worrying about certain things that they obviously hold now because life changes and evolves. So I feel like with that fire of that foundation, coach, and how much it instilled in me at a young age why community was so important, because you would see my grandfather and he would hold it down. And when he came from the second floor off that window and came downstairs, everybody came also downstairs as well, right? There was this energy, and obviously it carried us a layer of old schoolness, because you better get your ass in that living room. If he comes there and you
Absolutely.
ain't there, right? But
Right.
when I think, and maybe this is how I heard your question, when I think of my foundation and what it means to me and how I instill it in others, right? How I share that gift, that love for it, that's how I meet you, and that's how I bring other people in, right? That's how I have panels, and I don't just settle. I guess I don't just settle for just me doing the talking. I want to have a community of talkers, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
as I always say, as much as I love being a messenger, I got some amazing people in my life that got some great messages, and y'all need to hear their voice.
Mm.
So I land my plane there, Coach.
Yeah, man, look, that was right there. You spoke to kind of your upbringing and that leadership from your grandfather and how community started with family and
Mm,
branched out to what you did. And I even hear some of that, giving a shout out to your grandfather and even some of that leadership and some of those roles. What were some of those like roles that you held in terms of, because I know you told
yeah,
one of the first things I learned from you is the camps and everything. So what are some of
yeah.
those positions that you held in the community that was, as you said, and I'm going to echo it and say, absolutely, that everything you do is about community, because we've been talking so much about even the people that you bring together. That's community, not only community building, but it's community safeguarding because you're keeping that
Mm,
community feeling going. And it's people from all over different walks. And through community, we realize that, man, we got so much in common, So, what
hmm.
were some of those positions and roles that you held in addition to, I know you talked about the camp, but tell people a little bit more about some of those roles that you held in terms of how you serve the community with those roles.
Yeah, for sure, Coach, and I appreciate you bringing that back. And I think I'm humble with mine, so a lot of times I might need a little tug on like the things that I've done for the community in that way, right? Because when you do, I guess when I do my level of community work, I do it like I would naturally do my family work.
Mm.
So I don't come later on to my children during dinner and be like, "Hey, y'all remember yesterday when I dropped you all
Right.
off to work and picked you up from school?" I joke, but at the same time, the texture of that is like, when I do for community, right? It's like it's family, right? It always brings me back to that. In saying that, I think that's why I really excelled in the outdoor recreational world. That's where I really come from, outdoor recreational world, non for profit world, where I picked up a lot of skills via those two worlds. The camp world, I pretty much grew up through camp throughout my childhood. My mom being a single mother and me being a fatherless child, she always sent me to camp every summer to get me away from the city, and about, I don't know, about 10, 15 minutes away from our house, there's an organization that was just a beacon of the community, still is to this day. They had all these programs, Coach, all for Black and brown families, immigrants who were coming in, because we had a lot of Polish and Italian families in the neighborhood as well. And they just had all these amazing programs, and one of them was a camp, and my mom just happened to get into it. It was really like that. She sent her two older children, didn't like it. She sent me, I loved it. And the same camp that she sent me to when I was a mature 6 year old, because they didn't sign up 6 year olds, only 7 year olds.
Mm.
It really took me off, right? That they didn't know when they signed up that 6 year old, they were going to create the most amazing camp director,
Mm. Wow.
right? Because once they signed me up, I got turned on to camp in a whole different way. It was the first time I saw stars. It was the first time I learned how to, shoot a bow and arrow, how camping outside, right, in a tent, cooking outside. Like they were doing things that was not natural or not about natural, but they weren't doing them in the 4 blocks of my neighborhood. So just in
Mm,
general, camp is a big part of my life. And because they put me onto it, and I ate that up like the best pizza in the world, it really turned me on. And the great thing about an organization that's serving a community, when you serve them back, meaning when you come to their programs, when you partake, they invest in you. And they did that to me, coach. So
mm.
being a little loquacious here, but wanting to paint the intro to this, is that for me to get to where I wanted to be in my career and run all these communities in the outdoor rec world, I needed someone to sign me up when I was 6 to get me there when I was 26, right?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
the beautiful thing about that is the camp put me in every section of the camp. Meaning they were like, Adam needs to learn the office area. He needs to learn the kitchen, right? Every area. I got my first stitches at camp, right? I got hit with a croquet in my head, right? All these different experiences happened because it was bringing me to that 26-year-old Adam that when my camp director was leaving, they were like, Adam can take this over now. So in a way, a lot of what I've done in my younger life and those gifts that were given to me really bring me to that older life of that camp director that served Chicago, Michigan, Milwaukee, right? These three beautiful states of nothing but amazing black and brown families that came to our programs. But another highlight of that, right? I always looked at camp and my tagline, like I have Who's Helping You Heal now. But in my camp days, I had a tagline and it was change lives and save lives.
Yeah.
Because I knew that's what my camp was doing. Our
Right.
campers were going home to home, not knowing where home is. And we were giving them 4 weeks of home, right, coach? They knew they were getting dinners that connected to their culture. They were getting activities that were going to keep them busy throughout their day. We were giving them positive affirmations when they woke up and we met at the flagpole, like, we love you today. Keep that PMA, that positive mental attitude. Imagine that, coach. 100 campers just staring at you, all going home to home, not knowing where home is. And you dad for
Wow.
4 weeks for them, right?
Yeah.
So when I think of the communities I served a lot of them, and I'll speak it in cities just to answer the question. Chicago, um, Michigan, and Wisconsin, or Chicago, Detroit, Milwaukee. Those three areas were the main places of serving, right? But when I think of like serving, my heart serving, it is all those children that I used to either go to Children's Advocacy Center, which was 2 blocks away from the United Center, where the great Michael Jordan played, right? And I would go to that place and I would spend 3 to 4 months in that place. They had a detective unit in that space, and they had the most extreme cases of sexual abuse for ages 3 to 10. And I would spend time in that place so those children would get comfortable with me so I can take them out to camp so they can meet the
Mm,
community that loves them.
wow.
So
Wow.
answering that, man, I served a lot of communities, coach. But when I think of the community that really, resonated in my heart of serving and like took a lot of my energy and time, right, was those children I knew were going home to home, not knowing where home is.
Hmm.
So I land my
Yeah.
plane, sir.
That's awesome, man. That and it goes back to what you said before. Everything you do is community. That's literally all you know, bro. Like from 6, like that impactful stuff, man, is so amazing. And this is the thing I told you before we started that I'm doing a back to school assembly for high school tomorrow. And that's some of the messages that I tell when no matter what the age, I'm like, y'all
Yeah.
don't know what that teacher that you may not like that still shows up and supports you and tells you the stuff you may not want to hear, but you
Hmm.
need it. You never know 10, 15 years from now what that is going to do for you, what your ninth grade homeroom teacher is going to, the impact that it's going to have, or those experiences that for right now you may take it for granted. But if you just pay attention, well, what it will
Hmm.
do for you, one day you may be calling Coach Mike to come speak to this school. So what you
Hmm.
said right there, not knowing that this 6 year old was going to become the 26-year-old that was going to be leading everything you were teaching. So, community,
Yeah.
pretty much your life is a community project, which is amazing. And just again, like you said, going back, bro, and bringing it back, the highlighting the
Yeah.
people, giving the roses, putting the spotlight on the people, and we putting the spotlight on you, and we making it hot. So, bro, with that, man, beautiful. And that community service, we've been talking about the hats you wear. One of the other things
Yes.
that I love, bro, is when we talk about mental health. I say this often, whether I'm teaching or coaching. I say, mental health now is less taboo, but it's still work
Hmm.
that needs to be done, right? It's less
Oh
taboo,
yeah.
but it's still work that needs to be done with it. And I love how you call yourself a mental health advocate in action, right? So
Hmm.
talk to us for a moment of what that looks like when you say that and you think about a mental health advocate in action. What does that look
Yeah.
like for you?
For sure, coach. Yeah, I think that's someone who's not scared to speak on it, right? I think as you shared, it's not as taboo as it used to be, but there's still some work there, right? There's still a lot of us not speaking. There's still a lot of us doing it and going through it in silence. There's still a lot of
Mm.
us saying, don't share that. That's our business. Keep that business to yourself, right? There's still a lot of that. And I get it because I used to live in that space. So I
Mm.
think what makes and breaks a mental health advocate for me, let's say the make side is that I fully committed when I decided to take a training with you and Troy and invest in myself, sir. That was me investing in being that mental health advocate. As much as I was taking coaching certifications, right? It was all with the hat, the first hat that came in, walking in there, like, I want to help people heal. I'm tired of hurting by myself. I'm tired of seeing other people hurt and not being able to let it go. Right? And I think after a while, when you start seeing so many people, especially the age that I'm at and the age that I'm gaining, I know I'm falling, I'm heading towards the elder years, right? Where my elders are transitioning and I'm seeing this and I'm like, damn, it's another elder gone, right? So I think as I'm transitioning into that elder space, I think all of that just really hit me. Losing my mom's really hit me. Recently, just suicide in general, different people taking their life at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
Man, my brother Malcolm Jamal Warner losing his. I mean, all these things, right? And I didn't know Malcolm, but I knew Malcolm. So why I
Absolutely.
mention his name is when I think of mental health advocacy and that agent and that one who wants to move it. When I thought of a platform, the first thing I was like, I gotta offer some free therapy. Because I'll speak of myself. I had so many excuses not to do therapy. And the first was I didn't need to tell people my business. I could talk to my moms about
Mm-hmm.
that. But then mom's transition, who did I have after that?
Mm-hmm.
And if she's my only go to and that's who she was, then who do I go to?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was another like epiphany for me, coach, to be like, I need to head this way. So what I did was become more trauma informed. And the first self related piece to that is getting my work done, coach.
Right. Absolutely.
And that was therapy. And I got a therapist. And I benefited from therapy in so many ways, coach. And I lucked out because I got a great therapist. I didn't have to like pick one and switch that one, and right, I didn't have to go through that process. The one that I met understood me perfectly. It just worked out,
Mm.
right? But the one that I met also allowed me to feel what they feel, and I didn't think therapists did that.
Mm. Yeah.
And what I mean by that, he would have a tear or two in our sessions off of my shit,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's difference. They talk about empathy and
Mm-hmm.
how we fall into that empathy space, right? He wasn't sympathizing with me in those moments. I felt he was, he had empathy for me. He was like, I'm not you. I don't look like you because he didn't, but I'm feeling what you're feeling.
Right.
And that to me is the true supreme answer of that empathy. And in saying that, man, I feel like those moments, COVID, life changes, and just losing a lot of my people, our people. And that really was
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, let's do something. But up an epiphany from my mom's after her transition to ask people who's helping them heal, right? And I think, in the spirit of entrepreneurialism and business, once you have a brand and a logo, you can run, Forrest, run. And that's what
Yeah,
I did.
absolutely. Man. Ooh, bro, like that right there, I felt that so much. You, you, you peel that onion, the layers of that onion back when you started with a mental health advocate in action is about not being afraid to talk. And you literally went right into it. Seeing two men of color here to say it's okay to get some help. It's okay to have
Mhm,
somebody other than moms, pops, sister, brother, somebody else to talk to. And I think that's part of that advocacy, like you said, bro,
mhm,
to someone seeing, watching this and seeing it and not thinking, oh, is it okay? And like we talk about,
mhm,
it's less taboo, but still, and to hear you talk about that experience, like, oh, man, wait, all right, Mr. Adams said, let me try this out. So that in and of itself, like you said, is that true advocacy, man. And I'm telling you, even with that experience, sometimes you never know. It could be that
mhm,
connection that you didn't know you needed. Back to
mhm.
what you said, right? My
Yeah,
therapist, when we met, it was the person who understood me. And so I encourage people to take the shot, take the shot for
mhm,
you and for your life to say, hey, I may have that same experience Mr. Adam had, where's that person who gets me completely? And I think, like you said, I love the way you said that advocacy part of it is being able to talk. Um,
yeah,
I, I, I say I'm an advocate or, a whatever the title is of certain things. And people
yeah.
sometimes ask me, they say, well, Coach Mike, what do you mean by that? I say, well, not being afraid to say something when you disagree with how somebody is labeling a certain thing or tagging a
That's
certain
right.
thing, using your
That's right.
voice. That's one of the best ways you could be an advocate. So, man,
Yeah, man.
you hit that nail in the head. So now, of course, our connection, as you said,
Yeah, man.
came through coaching and this really, and that's why I say I'm a little biased as a coach, bro, because I think so many times coaches in the helping fields, period, coaches,
Yeah.
therapists, mentors, consultants, it's people who want to help people. And so now when
Hmm.
you think about that hat in particular, for someone who says, you know what, maybe I don't need therapy, I don't need the camp, Mr. Adam, but I need to coach with Mr. Adam. You know what I mean? Because when he talked about that transformative coaching or that healing coaching, he sparked a note in me. So what is your approach? What is your approach to coaching in terms of however those three may come together, where it be career
For sure.
transformative, healing, or just your approach to coaching? If
Yeah, man.
someone were to open up that little table of index to the book of Adam, right? And it described your approach to coaching, what would it say?
For sure. I think it would first say that I hold the space for them, right? I think that is probably one of my truest gifts, coach, right? Because you know this, that a client can enter a space, and if the coach can't hold that space for them, make them feel, and when I say hold space, just to clarify, help them feel comfortable immediately as they enter the space, right? They feel it immediately because your energy, because of the way because the way your presence holds the space. But also with that comfort, right, comes they're able to allow themselves to feel comfortable enough to embrace what I'm bringing to them, right? Like, all right, I'm going to walk into this space. I don't know who this coach is. Oh, that's who you are, right? So holding the
Mm-hmm.
space, I hold a great space, and I feel like that is probably one of my strongest gifts in my approach. Besides holding that space, coach, I think my biggest skill next to that is my receptiveness. As you know, I think a big part of coaching is listening, and I learned that from two great coaches, you and Troy, right? The be interested, not interesting. And that resonates with me. And when I think of that phrase there, I think of it more in the listening space and the receptive space. So I feel like a lot of that holding space, being able to hear things, right? Because I feel a lot of times clients will come into the space and they will round about what they feel,
Mm.
right? Some are direct and just can land the plane. Some got to go round and round, right? And by the circling round, I don't need you to go round three times, right? And that's that ear. That's that ear to say, okay, you're repeating yourself. Let me tell you what you're sharing with me now, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
being able to echo. So that mirror effect and that listening effect, I feel goes hand in hand with me holding space. I think there's a part of my coaching space, especially within that transformative life. I've been through a lot in my life, so there's always examples that I can always rely on and lean to. But it's really understanding the person's focus of their hurt,
Mm, yeah.
pinpointing that hurt, so that I can come in there and exercise that hurt with them. When I think of the three, coach, I expressed this about a week ago to a class of some adult learners, ages 30 to 65. And I told them my coaching lives in three spaces, right? It lives in life, career, and healing. And I feel healing taps into all of them because I feel like with my career coach, I'm always going to give you angles on your resume and your LinkedIn approach and all those things that's going to make the consumer see you in a magical way, right? But then there's the space of being able to cultivate you in your confidence. I can teach you all the skills, your resume, your interview, your LinkedIn, your portfolio. But if you lack confidence and lack belief in yourself, we never getting you there. So what I do is
Absolutely.
I focus on the root of that before we get there. Now, if I recognize that that root isn't needed, then we can keep it moving, right, coach? So assessing, being able to assess and understand quickly because time is money. And yeah, I want to get paid, but I also don't need 50 hours to marinate on this with you. So
Mm,
when I think of my approach, holding the space, being receptive, giving you some results and giving them to you fairly quickly because I'm an assessor, right? But then I feel like after I do all that work, coach, and you know this, I feel like that's where my healing comes in because in the space of hearing all these things with you and being able to process and debrief things with you, something in my healing sector is going off that's saying you got some kind of imposter syndrome resonating in that decision making. And life coach can work with that. Yeah, but let me bring the healer in to work with that. It's kind of like Professor says, and this is what I love about his de-excavation. I really do look at it like that, like digging up that shit out, right? And being able
mm-hmm.
to remove it. But if it lives in a space for me, coach, to kind of like define it, it is the holding the space, it is the full receptiveness and the assessor, being able to assess what you're going through and giving you the things you need to do to overcome them, right?
Yeah, man. Bro, to that I say, if you watch it and you need to overcome, you need to heal, you need somebody to hold a space to assess,
Uh,
because it's so funny, man. When I did a whole presentation for about 6 months, because when I'm doing presentations, I get a certain theme and I flesh it
yep,
out. I flesh it out to a lot of different. I'm like, listen, is no, if I have the template, why am I trying to reinvent the wheel? And that assess is so big, man. I did an ABCs one time. And so to that, I say to people watching, man, if any of that resonate, y'all need to be, you know what, you need to be contacting coaching with Mr. Adam right now. Right. Because that right, what you said, and for those who don't even know what coaching is, it's everything that you just said. That's what
yeah,
coaching is all about, man. It's holding that space. It's helping someone ultimately where you landed is to get what they need to overcome those challenges, right? And if
sure,
you don't have, going back to what you said, if you don't have the confidence, I can help you unpack all this. I can help you heal
yeah,
through it. But if you don't have the confidence and have the wherewithal to say, let me put in some work, you don't get there. But you got to have someone first to hear you, to
yep,
recognize, right? To recognize
yep,
when you running in circles, you're on the
hmm,
rat wheel and nobody
yep,
has said, hold on. Let me tell you what you're saying. And then what do
yeah,
you need to do with it, right? Because I'm hearing you. You just going in circles. So that right
yeah.
there, oh man, that was
I,
that was awesome right there in and of itself.
and yeah, coach, I like to add also the word pause, right? Being allowed, and I use that word a lot in our segments and different things in my coaching tips because it is a word that resonates with me because I feel like human nature just wants to move quick and get shit done. right?
Mm.
And last week with those group of adult learners, I brought my processing tools out. I did a few body parts with them and brought that out, put them in a circle, right? And as I was processing this thing with them, I was explaining the game, and they were all down for the game, right? Coach, they were like, "Yep, let's go." But the part of the game was you have to have the body part in your hand to be able to talk,
Mm.
right? And across the circle, one of my adult learners immediately was like, "All right, I'll get started," and just started going into his thing like he had the body part in his hand, right? And I had to just look at him and let him finish his sentence, and I said, "Hey, do you pause for a second?" And he kind of just looked at me and took that. Why I'm saying this is when we were little, we were always like, stop, pause for the, don't run across the street, pause for, you're always told to pause. And then somewhere in teen, adult, it just kind of
Mm.
leaves, right? No more
Yeah.
pause. You better run. You got time's money. Hurry
Yep.
up. You ain't got time, right? And I feel adults need to pause more. And what I did
Mm.
with that adult learner is I paused and I just said, you have to have the body part in the hand for the game to actually start because the goal of it is you squeeze this thing while you talk,
Right.
right? And he was like, oh, I get it. But I'm using it as an example as all these adult learners were just ready to run with it when they just heard me express the rules that you have to have the body part in the hand
Mm-hmm.
because we don't pause enough. As that I shared a story with you before we recorded, I think, right? It was before we recorded, about the person in the elevator, and
Mm-hmm.
I paused with them when we went in that car. I paused with them, coach, and I said, hey, congratulations.
Yeah.
It's that moment. And I think we use it a lot in the segments that we all do. And all the Healing Squad members use the word grace.
Mm-hmm.
Shit that we didn't, those pieces that didn't equate for me when I was coming up. There wasn't a lot of grace. So I say that
Absolutely.
pause and grace is also part of that process. And then there of the technique in my approach, right? But then there's the part that I said earlier that I just cannot explain, coach, that through my heart dynamics, through how I love people and truly love them, through truly listening beyond what they're saying to me. Sometimes people say, read between the lines on a paper. I do that with people's brains and their heart a little bit, right? A little bit of an empath too. But I think
Mm-hmm.
between all that and maybe the spiritual connection, last thought here, right? Last thought, coach. Then I'm going to land my plane. I mentioned the story of Chat giving me a name, a nickname. One thing that dawned on me recently, and it's probably because I'm getting closer to a turnaround of a century, a little bit here. I was born on midnight, coach, in between spring and winter.
Mm.
And I was also born feet first with an umbilical cord around my neck. Why I say that, coach, I believe that I was born in between two worlds, the physical and the spiritual. And I believe a lot of my gifts that I say I can't really explain fall in that spiritual realm. When a stranger can kind of meet me and 10 minutes meeting me and talking with me, they telling me their life story and crying, right? You know this because you got that damn gift too, coach. I know I'm
Right.
preaching to the choir. And that's what I think of those three things: midnight, spring, summer, or spring, winter, I'm sorry. And then the fact that I came out the womb almost dying.
Mm-hmm.
And then my name's Adam, if you're biblical, right?
Right.
Why I'm saying this, that I think is part of that gift that I can share with people. And when I think of how the healing pours into career and transformative, the healing is working on the root of those issues, where the transformative and the career and the perspective is working on the top surface of those things, right? If that makes sense, sir.
Man, absolutely. Listen, bro, it's this thing about you, the stuff you said. I'm picking up what you're putting down because you said sometimes you just can't explain certain things, right?
Yeah.
And it makes me think of I get so tired of some of the trendy acronyms and different things that happen because I'm like, okay, they're played out now. But one I don't get tired of is the if you know, you know. because it's
Mm,
like when you're speaking about some of those things, it's if you know, you know. When you said, if I can add something, and I'm gonna land my plane here, bro. Now, when we get off into the spiritual and all that thing, I'm a numbers guy. It was
yeah.
recording time. It was 555, 555
Mm,
when you started to go into that. and, and
hmm
you being born on an equinox, a shift in the equinox and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's why you're shining so bright. Hell yeah. So absolutely, I know that, and that makes so much sense, man. And this is the purpose of this conversation, right? Because now people see the other sides, the other side of the person who's bringing all these dope people together, and it gives a hint into as to why, right? Because like attract like, what you put out, you get back. And speaking of
hmm
that, it made me think about a conversation we had before, and we talked about this in some of our segments too with the squad, and this idea of going out to heal within. So for a moment, just talk to talk to the audience for a moment about your connection with nature. And I know a lot
Yeah.
of it you talked about some of it already, even with
Yeah.
camping. You said with camp was your first time seeing the stars and being able to see this.
hmm
So talk for a moment about your connection with nature and this concept of what we talk about going out to heal within.
For sure, coach. Man, I believe that that connection with nature is all kind of ancestrally rooted, man. There's something about nature that just resonates for me, and it's not just like let me go walk in the woods. Nature is a bird just hops on my porch, right? A
Mm,
rabbit goes in my yard. Some people find that as a pest. That's nature for me, right? The sun going up, the sun going down. So it consists of many things, but really it's the element of being outside, being able to connect with the trees and the branches and all those pieces. And I think when I say the deeply rooted from the ancestors, right, I feel like spiritually, when I think of outside and I think of the spaces that I roamed, the camps that I ran for many years, all those lands, right, that people used to use before us, my thought was going was, when I went to camp for the first time, it was very strange land because it was in Wisconsin. It wasn't in Chicago, right? And I didn't understand the land, the way of the land, right? And I identified with the land immediately when I went there. As I grew up, outdoors and Wisconsin became the escapism from the city, right? And as I was growing up, teenage years, I lost three friends to gang violence. And at the same time, I was going outside to Wisconsin. So there was this literal saving my life from Chicago to going out there. So it really rooted in part like how much outdoors is for me and saved me. It really
mm,
became like this life mantra for me at a young age, but really, when I think of that tagline of "Change lives, save lives," I was part of that, right? They changed my life and saved my life. So what did I do? I just kind of regurgitated and did it my own way and said, "I'm gonna change lives and save lives now." Bigger picture than that, I had the blessing and just humble honor to serve so many black and brown beautiful children at my camp, coach.
mhm,
And that's another level of like my connection, my love for the outdoors, for nature, because I witnessed so many children enjoy it. And when you create something for them, right? When I would tell the campers, all right, we're gonna do the Nights of the Serengeti on the main field, and we're gonna have a movie night with a big blow up screen, and we're gonna have popcorns. It's not Garrett's, but we're gonna have popcorn, right? And my staff are like, did Miss Adams say this to us? And guess what? We created the Serengeti, that damn theater. We did that, right? And I got to witness children leave from their circumstances, from stories that I'll never forget that they went through, coach, and just be a child, like just smile, enjoy a movie and popcorn in the safety of me and my people, my staff, right? And I think of when I my love for nature, that's an element as well, besides my own selfish young element and how it pulled me from the city of Chicago during the violence of the summer, uh, transforming to a mid adult. now I get to see all these children enjoy this, and the power of it, like the power of the outdoors. When we're laying near the lakefront, near the swim area with the youngest cabin, because they've never saw the Milky Way before.
Mm.
But Coach Mr. Adams, like, I'm gonna let y'all stay up late tonight. Or at the time, it's just Mr. Adam, and y'all can come to breakfast later to watch the Milky Way, right? And part of the politics of camp, you do things like that. But what I'm getting to is the bigger picture of my love for the outdoors isn't just through my lenses and what it did for me, through my lens and what it did for me. It's what I've seen it give to others, especially children I serve, and then moving it to like where I'm at now in my middle of my life, right? If it wasn't for the outdoors, I wouldn't be married right now, coach.
Mm.
The outdoors saved my marriage.
Yeah.
So, and why I say that is, when the pandemic hit and it hit so many different things and took so many lives away, but it also challenged tons of marriages,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you just never know how much you know someone, so you just have to stay in the damn crib because you don't need to come
Right.
out, right?
You got no choice.
You ain't got no choice. And then the only places you could go is state parks. Go ahead, go for a walk. People didn't even want to walk. So I think the beauty of that is when that was going, when I was losing my union, the outdoors came back, tapped me on my shoulder and said, I think you need to come back to me.
Mm.
I left it for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pandemic hit. Ain't no camp running during pandemic. And I swear to you, coach, it's like he came back to me and said, look, you need the outdoors. And also therapy said, hey, y'all need more than just therapy and talking. Y'all need something else to do together. And I think part of that, and I recommend this for any couple who wants to do that. When you go on a 7 mile hike with someone that you have differences with, and you get lost, so it becomes like 9 miles, man, you get a lot done. You get a lot
Mm.
of conversations done. You get a lot of understanding. You get a lot of discomfort. And the outdoors gave me and my wife all that. And I want to say by the end of the first year of us doing that, we did it every Sunday, coach, like clockwork, even if it was raining, snowing, we still committed because we knew
Wow.
we were worth it. The end result was that we did actual real talking. We thought we were talking up in the crib and in the living room and in the kitchen and in the bedroom, right? The real talking actually happened in the outdoors, amongst the trees, amongst the nature. There was moments where we started like, we'll talk for 3 miles, quiet for a mile to take in the nature. Outdoors just came again and just blessed me. It continues to bless me, coach. And that's why I know that, when I left Wisconsin, the best state for me to go to was Colorado because it just got a gang of outdoors and trails and things like that. And when I'm thinking of like foundation and future planning, because I'm a strategic master, I'm like, well, what can secure my merge even more?
Mm-hmm.
Colorado trails, right? There's tons of them out there. There's abundance. I joke, but man, outdoors has done so much for me. Um, More than maybe even some of my family members, and that's not out of diss. It just really gave to me, but I think I gave into it to give to me. I accepted the
Mm-hmm.
outdoors in that way. I didn't believe that, oh, you don't do that. That's what white people do. We don't go camping. Nah, I love camping. That's what I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was a big believer for many years there, and I'll land my plane on here for many years there, coach, I used to tell people, I specialize in bringing black and brown people to the woods.
Mm.
I was proud of that because I saw the healing that was happening in the woods. I saw people healing, coach, vulnerable than a mug, putting their wall down, community kitchen and eating. Like I saw a big difference in people. So I know I'm being loquacious, but man, that is my connection to outdoors, is the magic of it, the connection, the spiritual connection, and how it's came through and just kind of like, man, just bless me.
Yeah, I love that, man. Listen, bro, let me tell you, from my mouth to your ears, thank you for allowing me to do this and take over your spot to
Yeah.
put the spotlight on you, man. Always a pleasure, as I told you from the jump, man. It's just something about energy, you know what I'm saying, that can't be created nor destroyed. And the connections that you build with certain people, man, it's just unmatched. So thank you for allowing me to do this, man, and just be in this space once again with you and break bread, to give your audience a look into the man behind this movement and everything that's going on. So with that, I say thank you, man, and I'm gonna give it back to you for you to drive us all home.
For sure. Well, I appreciate you, sir. Thank you for the twist in this interview. Big ups to Coach Mike James. And, this is the last episode for Black and Brown in the Woods in this format. This is the 6th episode of Black and Brown in the Woods. After this episode, I am going to flip the format a little bit. It's going to come back at you sometime in December. And I'm going to do something a little different with Black and Brown in the Woods. We're going to keep it going, but it won't be in the same format. We're going to find different ways to honor and give virtual flowers to our people. And of course, as I continue to build these segments, build these portions and panels, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment. And you know what my last words are. Who's helping you heal, y'all? Peace.